This is the 134th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the 4th and last week of April 2013. This episode is titled Summer Integration 13. CloudFocus Week is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts, and I am your host, Jason Atwood. Joining me from a long trip ago is Justin Edelstein. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Apologize.
I am sorry.
Okay, very
good. There was no podcast last week. It was kind of my fault, I think.
Not really. No, it really was because you made a plan to go hang out with a friend while we were supposed to go back and do podcasting.
Yeah.
You went and ate a donut instead of podcasting.
Oh, man. If you're ever in Austin, just go to this donut food truck. I'm going to pull up. I took a picture of it so I would never forget what it was called.
The donut?
No, the truck. It's called Gordo's Big Fat Donuts. We were in Austin, Texas, as you'll soon learn.
Yep.
To attend a conference that we will talk about.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we were going to use the travel mics that we used last week. And, you know, my friend of mine lives in Austin, and I hadn't had a chance to see him, so I decided to bail on the pod and go out for tacos and donuts. So that is on me. But you get us on a Monday this week. So there's a little bonus.
So it's probably only been
we're calling it the last week in April. It's not really the last week in April, but it'll probably be the last week in April that you hear from us.
Because next week is only 2 days.
Yeah.
We'll probably do our podcast next week, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Depending.
Today's my dad's birthday, so happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday, Walt.
I'm just going to shout him out.
Why not?
Throw his name out there.
I'm not going to call him the little man.
Call him Justin's dad.
Justin's dad.
Happy birthday, Dad.
And now they know your name, and now they can find him.
I wonder if he listens. If you listen, text me.
Tell me. If you listen, why haven't you told me the last 134 times that you listen?
He always likes them on Facebook.
He does. So there you go. Now he's outed himself. Because he likes them on
Facebook,
which is a public place.
May listen to or not.
Speaking of things I don't listen to, we have an agenda this week.
Where's this agenda written?
We're going to do a double blog post because we have 2 in the hopper that have gone out that we haven't had a chance to talk about.
Right.
We're going to talk about our trip down to Austin, what we're doing on there, and any findings or takeaways. We have just one of our favorite companies has changed their name. We'll talk about that. It's kind of fun. And then Summer 13 release notes are out. We have taken a sneak peek. We're probably going to talk a little bit about it, like high level, and then we'll do a deep dive in next week.
The blog
probably.
Post hasn't yet been written. That's usually when we deep dive.
Right.
When we write
but we should probably deep dive next week anyway.
Yeah, I mean, these are just the first iteration of the release notes. I've already read through some stuff and been like, I don't get it. That's going to need a revision. So,
okay,
we'll talk about it.
All right. So, and then we'll make our CloudFocus app pick of the week. Mine was from last week, so it's easy. And then I've been using mine. And
me too.
Yeah. So we'll do that. But let's start off with my blog post from 2 weeks ago, which I think we talked about that I was going to write, or we talked about that I was going to post.
Mm-hmm.
So
we knew what it was going to be.
Yeah. So I guess I could just give a high level because it is there. It's self-explanatory. But anyway, 2 years ago, and I wrote a blog post about using Google Wave for GTD and scrums and project management. But I figured it'd been 3 years. We'd actually stopped using Google Wave because Google Wave went away. And so I rewrote it, basically saying how we use Google Docs, what the differences are, where the pain points are. It's all up on blog.arkusinc.com. I think more the important thing is when the Wave died, Google Wave.
We were so sad.
And now I feel like
we're better off.
Yeah, probably better off.
Google Docs is better than Google Wave for what we were using it for.
Yes, it is. Scale's better.
It just is.
Yep.
It's better. I feel like one of the best things, or the things I loved about Wave, was the inline commenting and the real-time nature of it.
Yep.
And both of those features have been both replicated and done better. Like, commenting is better in Google Docs with mentions, and just the comments are not really inline. They're off to the side, which are actually better because then the doc stays the way it should be, flat. And the real time is real time, and it has chat in it, so it's even more real time.
So it's even better than the real time
Better
nature
than
of
the
having
real-time.
awareness. It now has real time awareness and chat, which is non-permanent, which is the best place to have a chat if you
Right.
want to. I mean, I'm sure for some places that mean you couldn't use that feature, but for us, it's nice to be able to say some things in chat that you're not saying someplace else. Because if you write it in Google Chat, it gets caught in some, whatever.
Some big log or
Some log or thing.
somewhere.
But anyway, so that's the first blog post. Go read it. It's interesting. It'll be,
If you read the first one, read the second one.
Read the second one. I link
That's
back
it.
so you can go back and read. I think more importantly, like we've been doing blog posts for almost 3 years now. It's a lot of blog posts out there.
Yep.
But then you wrote one.
I wrote a big one.
More on par with sort of maybe our audience in some ways, but deep diving into Salesforce record types.
Yeah, this came out of a conversation that I was having with product manager Adam Torman.
And friend of the podcast.
And friend of the podcast, Adam Torman. And him and I were having a discussion about record type selection in permission sets.
Because when I'm just sitting around with a beer in my hand at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what?
This was on a Friday afternoon, 6 East, because he's on the West Coast. So it was
Right.
like at the end of my week, I was like, you know what, I'll talk to you for a half hour or whatever. And we were just, talking, and we just got into this whole mishmash of conversation, and it went down a path of record types and the mystery surrounding them, about how there's just so much that a record type does and doesn't do, and what it does and what it doesn't do, and how permissions are set around record types and misconceptions around what they do. And I was like, wow, that would make a really good blog post. And he agreed. So I was like, you know what? I'll write it, and you can link to it from your blog or your Twitter or whatever. And so I went ahead and wrote it. It's split into a couple sections, some of the use cases for record types, some common misconceptions, which is the meat of what I feel is the blog post, and just some little tricky things that record types sometimes trip you up on. So for those of you out there who are doing a lot with record types and, obviously within Salesforce, you may want to give this a read. I think it's a pretty, it's not like every single thing in the universe that there is to know about record types, but there's quite a bit out there. And I was able to describe one of my favorite sort of fictitious use cases around record types and a mishmash of profiles and org-wide sharing rules, where a user could potentially create a record, save it, and then not see it.
Yep.
It's like one of my favorite crazy use cases.
Because they have permission to
create at the object level, create at the record type level, but then are split off based on criteria sharing that they can't see any records within that object of that record type. So they can create it, save it, it saves, they can then no longer see it.
And then it shows them that you don't have permission to see this.
Insufficient privileges. I love it.
It's like just throwing
And
into
I
like the black
confirmed
void.
that was the case, and it is. It's kind of a crazy use case, but I imagine it exists out there in more than a few orgs.
I'm sure. Well, anyway, that's also at blog.arkusinc.com, along with every blog post we've posted since July 2010. I think is when we started this. So yeah, good for a good read. I will admit I sometimes stumble back and forth with, like, should I be doing that at what level? Oh, right, that's right, record type, page layout. But they're very, very useful. They're a little bit. I find that when you're starting to build big objects and you're starting to throw a lot of record types and a lot of page layouts associated with those record types, field stuff gets kind of like really the page layout stuff, because when you throw a new field on, it goes to the topmost point, or if it's a big one, it goes to the section that has a double, whatever. But then if you have many page layouts, you then have to go through all of them and have to rearrange. And if you have lots of fields, you can end up doing a lot. Now, best practice, usually start with one and then get that one right, and then go, sort of get one page layout and then copy it and take away, sort of start with everything and then take away. But that's not usually the use case you're doing. You've done something, then you're going to go add a lot to it. So it's the only thing. I wish there was some way of, I don't know, kind of easier being able to either edit multiple page layouts in the same, like in a multi-editor mode, so I could kind of see them all, because then because I find I want to have the name of something in the same place on all the different page layouts, but then I have to flip between all of them to figure out where it is. I guess I can open up 17 tabs, but I don't even know how that works
They've gotten better about that with related lists. So if you have multiple page layouts on a record, or on an object, you can edit the related list and the fields and then say apply to all page layouts.
Yes.
Which that's nice. I don't know when that came out, but that was nice, because that didn't always exist. You have to go to like 6 different page layouts and move the columns around and make sure they're right and all that stuff. So that's gotten a lot better, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
So the reason we weren't doing a podcast last week, we were down at Integration World by Actian.
Actian who?
Actian.
Who's that?
So I think we mentioned this on a podcast today. One of the partners we work with a lot, just integration partner, formerly known as Pervasive, got bought. Actually, they were a public company. They got bought by a private company and turned into Actian, so all their products and everything. So it actually closed 2 days before the conference, so it was Pervasive's Integration World, and then 2 days before the conference, it turned to Integration World. It's the second year in a row that I've gone. Again, we just end up having a lot of clients who use their software, so we go down to check out the new stuff and to meet with people, and an excuse to go to Austin and eat barbecue,
right,
or donuts,
tacos.
I mean, I will say it's interesting because we know Dreamforce so well and have gone for so many years that when you go to another conference, you're always like, oh, I'm expecting, no. It's a very, very small, very specific, which is kind of interesting because you can do more. You can get the whole conference like in a hotel lobby for an event. You could get the whole conference in, for the keynote or whatever, in a small more small room. So it's certainly not the scale of something like Dreamforce, not even by a million, but it was interesting. And for us, I think we work a lot with the support people, and I think we even called out some of the support people, hopefully they don't listen to the podcast, on our support podcast of many, many moons ago. But there's nothing better than actually meeting someone who you work with all the time.
Sure.
And,
that was
shaking their hand and all that.
The thing that I got the most out of being at the conference was going into their data zone, which for those who are Salesforce folks who go to the Dreamforce, and there's the dev zones, and you can go and have those little consultations, like a 30-minute consultations or whatever. This was a little less structured. It was show up in a room, there's a bunch of people with computers, and you can go sit with them and do whatever you want. Pull out your computer, they got their own. And I was able to sit with people who I've worked with, who know the things that I'm working on, and sit and just talk through them. And I think I spent a total of about 4 hours in the data zone over the course of 2 days. And I thought that was really, really good hands-on stuff to just be able to see and talk to, whether they be support people, product managers, more technical assistance folks, and just being able to meet the managers and the managers, all that stuff is always very
Did you meet
useful.
the managers?
Well, when you meet, I guess when you meet like the general manager of the company, sure, that counts as the managers.
I think because
he's kind of the head of the company.
I mean, that was kind of the fun things. Again, having it be such a small conference. I mean, talk about big fish, little pond. Like, we got invited to go up to
We were in the super VIP zone.
Yeah, so we went up to the residence of one of the executives, and it was his apartment, and we got to walk around his apartment and drink and eat.
He was very proud of his apartment. He's like, walk around, go upstairs, go in my bathroom.
Yep. I took a picture of someone. I took a picture of someone in his bathtub. I'm just saying.
Why not?
So it was a totally different feel. again, if you're interested in Pervasive now, Actian stuff, they're an ETL producer or an ETL solution provider. They also do a lot of not just ETL, but also a lot of the T. So a lot of the data
stuff.
Data profiling,
big data.
They have a whole suite of big data stuff. And one of the reasons that Actian bought them was because Actian is in that space. Interesting that Actian, a smaller company, bought a bigger company. So a smaller private company bought a bigger public company.
Yep.
It's a very weird situation, but they seem to be happy, and it was fun. The bummer is I didn't get, because I was in a lot of meetings, and so I didn't get to go actually do, sort of the same thing with Salesforce now, with Dreamforce. I never get to go to the things I want to go to because I'm doing the things that kind of have to do as a business.
One thing I wanted to go to that I did not get to go to. Right. Other than that, I got to go to really everything. I really just wanted to spend a lot of time in that data zone.
Yeah. Well,
just talk to a lot of people,
and you ate barbecue.
Oh, almost passed out.
Boy, we ate barbecue.
That was epic.
Go befriend Justin's on his Facebook page and see his pictures of barbecue.
Or my Instagram or something.
Go to his
Maybe
Instagram.
I'll tweet out a picture.
Yeah, tweet out a picture.
So you don't want people.
So you don't. So please don't follow me on Facebook. Whatever. So anyway, that was interesting. We're back, and then we actually went to training and got trained on their new product, which you've been using for almost a year and a half. I've never used. And that was interesting, just in being trained on something. Yeah,
I filled in some gaps, get some good knowledge on some stuff.
Yeah,
it felt good to sit there and feel very confident about what the instructor was showing, and when he was asking questions, I knew a lot of the answers, and that was reassuring.
It was good,
and I thought that it was good to when you jump right in to a product, you don't learn all the little structural foundational bits and pieces that you probably should. So this helped fill the lower level foundational pieces of the puzzle.
So you want to hear something funny?
When would I not want to hear something funny?
Well, when it involves you.
Oh man.
No.
I don't even know what this is.
We went to training 2 years ago for the same partner.
We did.
And we got trained for 4 days.
4 days.
We did 2 days this time.
1.5.
Well, let's call it 2.
Yeah, it was
let's round it up.
Yeah.
So we've done 6 days of training on this piece of software, or whatever. It's 2 versions of the same software. 6 days. How many hours of training have you ever done on Salesforce? Formal training.
0.
Isn't that kind of funny that here's a product that we use for a small percentage of our clients, that we have 6 days of formal training in 2 years, and a product that I've been using for 11 years, and you've been using for some crazy number, 6, 7, 8 years, that we've had 0 days. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if that speaks to the product. I don't know if that speaks to the help. I don't know if that just speaks to the world. Maybe it speaks to the price of their training. I don't know. Maybe their training's not cheap. But it's kind of weird, isn't it? Never had any formal training.
No, I never have. Yeah, I guess that is a little weird.
Isn't that weird?
When you think about it.
I don't feel like...
It's not funny.
Well...
I'm not laughing.
I think it's kind of funny. I've never... I mean, I used to program Python and never had formal training. I used to build databases, never formal training. I used to build servers, never formal training. I can sling some Unix around and formal training.
I feel like this specific type of tool requires a little bit of a level of training, and that's so odd to say because Salesforce is such a behemoth.
Yeah, and 10 times more.
Do almost anything.
I think it's theoretical. The stuff in Salesforce is theoretically very easy to understand because they're things that make sense. But when you start talking about source target data, transformation steps, easy script,
the vernacular is not.
It doesn't make any sense.
Salesforce, when you're learning
or data nodes,
when you're customizing contacts.
You're adding
fields,
a field to track whether they like food.
Contact field.
Right.
What kind of field? It's all described. Oh, a pick list equals a list of values.
Right.
Oh, okay, one of those. Here's where I add them.
Right.
It's when you get into a little deeper stuff that obviously training would be nice. But
speaking of another free advertising on the CloudFocus Weekly podcast, I got this the other day from our buddies over at AppExtremes. Formerly known as AppExtremes, now known as Conga. So the makers of Conga Composer, which we've made as a CloudFocus pick as we use every day of our life, as I was actually building stuff today.
Every one of their products was branded Conga, wasn't it?
So now they are
Conga queries, Conga templates,
Yep.
Conga composer, Conga conductor.
And they actually have a great YouTube video, which I don't know if you can see, but it's like why they renamed and how they did it. It's a cute little like 2-minute video. Anyway, so App Extremes is now Conga. I don't know. I threw it in there just because.
All right.
Interesting brand naming. Like you literally become your own. You become your product. Most people will start with the name of their company, Coke, and then you produce, or your Coca-Cola, you produce Coke, or I'm trying to think of another one, Xerox, and you produce Xerox machines. But this company, App Extremes, started and created something called Conga, and then now like it's going backwards. They're being named after their company, after their product. Soon we could change our name to the Permissioner.
It's a doozy.
What?
Conga, it's a great product.
And I also think App Extremes doesn't have any. It doesn't have any
nothing to
emotional pull, but Conga does.
Well, App Extremes could be anything.
It's extreme
my
apps.
app is extreme.
Yeah. Speaking of extreme things, Summer 13, the first vet, 200 and how many pages?
264.
264.
This is the biggest release I've seen in a while because there's some things going GA that are like, whoa.
87% of it's chatter. I'm just saying.
No, I wouldn't say that, but it did take me a while to get through the chatter section of the page, of the document, I would say, because a lot of it is spent on chatter communities going GA.
So I have not read it at all. I put it on my
some highlights.
So give me a couple that like the things that you just remember, and then we'll come back next week and we'll do a full deep dive.
So
good 45 minutes.
The first and biggest is chatter communities is going GA. And ladies and gentlemen, portals are going to cease to exist. So what you know and love today as the customer portal and the partner portal, if you don't have one or both in your org as of Summer 13, you will no longer be able to get one.
Oh, really? They're going to pull the feature?
Really? That is gone. They will still work, and your licenses can be used for chatter communities. So there are 3 sort of levels for the chatter community. There's the internal chatter community. Fine. Those are just internal users.
Okay.
So that's whatever. There's the customer and the partner.
Wow.
And you can define, different users at different levels with different roles and different permissions. And each license type has different access to different things, like accounts, contacts, or read-only on the customer side, on the partner side. They're editable. No leads on the customer side, leads on the partner side, opportunities on the partner side. No, it's very much
custom
the same
objects.
As custom objects across the board. Chatter, obviously across the board.
What's the
chatter
UI?
answers. No screenshots. Haven't seen it, but it's
even as an MVP. You still haven't seen this thing?
No, I've seen only the videos, but those are very custom.
Yeah.
The things at Dreamforce, which also look very custom
and very 9 months
The
ago.
only thing that will certainly change for the UI for the internal user, if you do have a community, there's a new header that will be put above the current header, which is like your logo and your app drop down and your name and all that stuff. There's a header above that shows you which community you're in, whether you're internal or inside of a community or not.
Interesting.
You can do a lot of stuff with your own permissions, like what people can see about you as a user inside of a community. And there's a lot to it, so we're gonna deep dive into it. But that's the big boy. That's the big one in this release is that. And to go along with it, I mean, they just went nuts with chatter. There's a feature called Publisher Actions.
Okay.
So these Publisher Actions are where you're going to start to be able to create records from inside the feed.
Right.
So you can define...
All your chatter belong to us.
You can now define... It's kind of like a page layout editor for chatter, for the feed. You say, okay. I'm in... you have to enable it. You say, all right, I'm on the contact tab, or I'm on a better use case. I'm on an account,
and I want to build a new contact.
I want to create a new contact
from the chatter feed.
From the account's chatter feed. And it respects all the validate. It's not like Quick Create, which everyone knows is not so great because it doesn't.
That rhymes,
Well, Quick Create doesn't.
It's not so great.
doesn't enforce validation rules. It doesn't enforce require fields, anything like that. This will. This is way better than Quick Create. And along with publisher actions, not only can you create, and it understands the relationship. So you're on an account, you create a contact that's related to that account.
Okay.
You're on an account, you create an opportunity that's related to that account. Along with this publisher action comes the ability to see related record chatter. So if I'm on an account, I can see all the related opportunities chatter from the account level. Now this is the part where I got a little confused, and when I get confused, I feel like a lot of people probably get confused because I start going in my head like, how's that gonna work?
Right.
So do I have to follow? So this is where I didn't understand it. It said in the notes. It said in context of the account chatter feed.
Okay.
Because they were using the account as a big example because of the opportunities. And I was like, oh, so if I follow the account, do I have to follow the opportunities anymore? Or will I see the chatter when I'm looking at the account, or will it only show me of opportunities that I'm following? Or will it show me all? Will it show up in my chatter tab in my feed if I'm just following the account? Will it show all the opportunities, or do I have to follow all the opportunities? Like, it started going nuts in my head because it was not explained. It was just like, yeah, you'll see related child records chatter. It didn't say whether you had to follow the child records or not, because that can be a really nice way to get around the limit of how many things you follow. You just follow accounts, and everything's related to an account,
right?
Or for the most part, you're like, oh, that's cool. I can just see I'll just follow accounts, or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
So those are some questions I feel like will come out, and the release notes will be updated. Couple other things I'll just throw out there. Opportunity splits. Do you remember them talking about this about 3 years ago?
Yeah, how cool they were.
Well, they're coming. They're coming in summer 13. Opportunity splits, I went back. I tried to find this. So a client was asking for them like 6 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could swear they rolled that out.
Yeah.
They rolled it out in pilot in like something 11.
You're kidding.
And never rolled it out. Well, it's being rolled out now. So you can do opportunity splits. Record types and permission sets.
I know, you're a big fan. Why are you a big fan? Go ahead.
My idea.
Okay.
My idea on the Idea Exchange.
Yeah.
Third ever idea going GA.
Nice.
Love it. Couple others that caught my eye. Owner fields and custom formulas.
That's big.
So, we have been writing triggers for years to just populate a lookup field on a record with a user lookup with the owner.
Right.
And therefore, you can then use that lookup field to get formula fields from the user, like email, which is a big one.
Right.
First name, last name. Sometimes you want them split for some purpose, and you can't do it. So that's a big one for me. And another huge one, which I think makes change sets really much, just bringing them all the way to the forefront is approval process deployment
in a change set.
In a change set, so I can finally deploy an approval process from sandbox to production.
Nice.
Because you start building out these approval processes, and they're complicated, and then there's 8 of them. You're testing them in your sandbox. Now you gotta go rebuild them, and all the actions that go along with it. It's not fun. So.
No.
There's some caveats about the approval process in Sandbox to production. Like, everything has to exist, basically. Like, if you're referencing anything in your approval process that doesn't exist in the target org, it won't go. But that's just whatever. That's just get it right in the Sandbox.
Just get it right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's not go too far.
That's it. I was going to stop there.
Stop there. Because it sounds like there's 200 and something
pages.
There's
a lot. And there's a lot in the force.com section. There's a lot in the chatter section.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can't wait. I can't wait to read it. I was going to read it on the plane home, but I think I ended up doing something else.
I was going to do the same thing, but I never downloaded onto a device.
I was so tired. After 7 days, I was like, I'm not reading anything.
No, I played a couple games of Monopoly.
You played 100 games of Monopoly.
No.
Oh, you mean full games. But I mean, you played for like hours.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're playing and you're really going hardcore, it takes
Surprised
a
that's
while.
not your pick of the week.
Monopoly on the iPad? Done.
See, there you go. I played Plants vs. Zombie. Like, it's an old fave. I go back to it. I've won it twice.
I love Monopoly on the iPad.
Have you ever played Plants vs. Zombie?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Why?
I'm not a fan of those types of games.
Tower Defense?
No.
So
same.
good.
I just don't like it.
So good.
I don't like it.
All right, let's get to your real CloudFocus app pick of the week.
Monopoly on the iPad.
Really?
Why not? You just said it. I know. I wrote one down.
All right.
So there's this.
I mean, this pick is like this third time I feel like you picked this type of thing, but okay.
No, this is different. So you like Zeit.
If there's one app that I use more than Songza now, it's Zeit on my iPad, yeah.
So you love Zeit.
I love Zeit.
So Zeit is an aggregator of news for you.
Yes.
In different topic areas.
And it can be custom topic areas. It
Right.
can be websites. You can follow websites.
Yep.
It's awesome.
So this is not quite as customizable, but it's got the same feel to it.
Okay.
It's called SC Feed.
Okay.
For Sports Center Feed.
Okay.
It's by ESPN.
Of course.
It's a lot of their apps. I think they do a great job in the app space. That failed phone they did, I think, helped them get it, just an understanding of what they needed to do as far as apps, because they do them better than anybody else.
Okay.
It's free, and it asks you, who are your favorite teams.
Yeah.
And then it just surfaces all this content for all your favorite teams.
But only from ESPN content?
From what I can tell, a lot of it's ESPN content, but I thought I saw some stuff that wasn't ESPN content. I'm going to hop into it right now. It's for the iPhone and the iPad. It is, it's universal, so that's pretty good. I feel like it does mostly ESPN content, but there's a lot more ESPN content than you know. Like, there's just tons of ESPN content. They have so much stuff. Right now, my Sports Center feed is just full of Darrelle Revis news. But
that we won't discuss.
It's got tons and tons and tons of stuff in here. And it knows, like I have the Knicks set in here as one of my favorite teams, and it knows that they're playing the Celtics now in the playoffs, so it's surfacing stuff from ESPN Boston about the Celtics too. So it's kind of smart. And there's a lot of ESPN properties that are out there that produce just tons and tons of content. So to have it aggregated in one place about just the teams you care about,
that's good. Yeah, nice. I like NBC Sports Talk. NBC on the iPad. It's the one that does
Pro Football Talk.
Yeah,
that's a good website.
But it's a great. Have you tried the iPad app? Oh, no. It's great.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's great.
Read that website.
And then I use TeamStream, which is a great alerting. So I get that from. So anything big, we're both Jets fans. Anything big news hits. So it's not like every 5 minutes. It's only when they do something that is monumentous. So it's like you might get.
Yesterday, it was just
I got one, and it said, "Here's what happened." I mean, it's like the alert. Like if something happens, you get the alert, and it pops up as an alert. I really like it.
Well, speaking of alerts,
so my pick.
What's your pick?
Yeah, well, you're just
speaking of alerts.
You know what my pick is. So
I do. We
were down at Integration World, put on by Actian, and one of the things that they showed or talked about was Actian's thing, which I guess Actian is a Salesforce user as well, but prior to buying Pervasive, they had an app and have an app called Actian Apps.
This is called Actian
Actions?
Action Apps or something.
Whatever.
You should get the name of the app right.
No, it's a link. Go find it. I went to go see what it was. And it is... as a Salesforce user, this is a kind of interesting pick. So what it is it's an iOS.
Did you just see my face?
What?
I just figured out an issue from over the weekend.
Okay. Can you just let me do the pick and then you can tell me the issue?
Well, I don't want to blame him for something, but I'm going to go ahead and blame him for something.
Interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. I just got it. So what it is, and now let me tell you what it is, and then we can talk about that. You might be dead on right.
I think I'm right.
So it is a
forgot all about
iOS app. It is not formatted for the new iOS, the i5. That kind of bugs me. It always bugs me. But anyway, you set up these. You basically set up alerts based on properties of leads or opportunities. So it doesn't have any custom objects yet. And you turn on these alerts. You set how you want to be alerted, and you can only get like push notification and email. I don't think you can get SMS
there is
yet.
SMS, but it's not
you
turned on. You can't.
But like, let's say you wanted to
you set conditions.
Yeah, it's basically doing things that you could do in workflow rules in Salesforce, but you can do it through a nice little interface on your iOS device, and then say every 15 minutes. So like, let's say, again, there's already a thing for big alerts in Salesforce. You can set that up in 2 seconds. But let's say you want to know every time an op goes from, let's say not from prospecting, from close won to close lost, right? Somehow it gets reversed, right?
Reversal of fortune.
Right? Set that up and you get an acting alert. Or I have one, or every time I have a couple, I have one called converted lead. Every time a lead gets converted, it sends me a little alert and tells you what got converted. So it's a little alerting platform. Now, interesting, what you brought up. So kind of cool, free, try it out. It has a nice little passcode. I like that it puts a passcode on it because it like stops it, but it does an alert at the top of your screen, tells you things. So again, but you can. The nice thing is, as a user, you can configure it. You don't need Salesforce Administrator to do it. Don't really know how it's working, but over the weekend we hit our API limit.
We did.
But I didn't see this.
That's right. If you look at our usage report, it's you and I.
Yeah, with like 1,200 a day.
Are hitting the API about 1,600 times a day with an unknown app.
Oh, is that what it was? Unknown?
That's it. It's this. It's got to be. If you look, because every other API call that we make, it knows. We have the Imperial Calendar Sync, we have the Conga Composer, and then there's you and I every day with the same number of API calls, like 1,600 calls per day, not attributed to an application. So I'm going to deny your pick and say, no good. Are you looking at the report?
Yeah. What's today,
It
Monday?
has just dashes on it, right?
1,408, 1,400.
The same amount for both of us, and it's just blank. It doesn't say what it is. That's it. That's the only other thing it could be. We're figuring out our own org issues here.
It is.
So I'm turning mine off.
So my pick of the week is pulling down 1,443 API calls per day per person.
That's just not right.
That's a lot. Well, wait a second. Let's figure that out. We set it to every 15 minutes. How many should that be?
I don't know how many calls it's making per thing.
We can.
How many alerts?
Well, we can say if we have 3. We can do the math.
I have 2 alerts on.
I have 3. But we
They're set to go every 15 minutes.
But we have the same amount, so that's strange.
It is strange. It's got to be polling it.
This is black magic. Don't touch this app.
Very often.
This is my first unpick of the week.
I'm gonna turn mine off.
So acting apps, cool if you have a lot of API calls. Otherwise,
I'm turning both of these off, and I'm gonna see what happens.
All right, I'll
tomorrow.
leave mine on.
Leave yours on.
All right. So that's it for this week of CloudFocus Weekly.
My eyes opened as you were saying.
Yeah, it was good. You figured it out. We've been thinking about it since Saturday. Like I was like, what? And I had to wait. You know how API calls are calculated every hour.
You had to wait
every hour to do one thing, and then I went over it. Then I had to wait till the next hour. So like I was trying to do this one thing. I was actually trying to use Conga, which makes API calls, and it was stopping me. So I had to wait. It was like Saturday. I had to wait till 4, and then I had to go, and then I waited till 5, and it came down enough so I could use the thing again. But anyway, you figured it out. So buyer beware. It's free.
Beware. If you're in a huge org,
yeah, you probably don't use it.
But as a user, you have no idea.
Right.
So you can really blow your org up.
If you had a lot of users using this.
I'd be really pissed as an administrator. I'm actually anti your pick right now. Yeah. I'd be really... If I'm in a big org,
yeah.
Right, I mean, I got a lot of API calls, but still, if... say I'm in an org with 500 users. Well, 500 users.
You know how we'll make them know this? How wouldn't they know this if they put this in their org? Like, if they had 10 users using it, it would be a lot of calls.
If you had an org with, say, 500 users, you've got a lot of calls. I mean, I'm trying to do the math. I think it's 1,000 calls per user. So that's, 50,000 calls?
But that's not even... There's the problem, is that to have the app on, you use 1,400.
Right.
So you use more than a user would use, and that's just that. That's just that app.
Right. So if half of your users are using this app, you're going to hit your API limits in a day if you're not using anything else that's hitting the API. So
for example,
buyer beware, and don't tell your users about it.
So for an example, Aperio,
thanks for telling us about this.
The calendar sync uses 147 a day per user. I looked at our numbers. Right. Conga, if you use
that's probably variation.
647. But that's for
647?
Yeah, for one user. But that's one user doing like
a lot of stuff in a day.
Yeah,
but not every day.
Not every
day.
day.
Not hitting 647.
So to have this thing use 1,400 per user is a ton.
Yeah, so I'm going to unpick your pick.
Wow. That's a crazy pick. Here, if you're a Salesforce user, not an administrator, you want to piss off your Salesforce administrator, have everybody install this and blow out his API.
Oh, what a nightmare.
So funny. All right. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week.
So glad I didn't pick that.
With another pick of the week that will blow out your APIs. Go follow Justin at twitter.com/Just Edelstein. Follow me at twitter.com/Jason M. Atwood. We're at twitter.com/Arkus Inc. We're on the Facebook Arkus Inc. We're on the Google. We're on the LinkedIn. We're in the Dreamforce portal. You can follow us there. There's a group just for CloudFocus Weekly fans, and we posted in there. So if you want to follow it in there, you can get it anywhere you want. Always go to blog.arkusinc.com. And remember to subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcast subscription service or in iTunes, whatever comes first. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, and as always, enjoy those cloudy days.